The Dice Ghost.
Welcome back to the Dice Ghost. Today we're diving into the October 2025 Bolt Action version 3 errata and FAQ update. There's one rule in particular that's blown the doors wide open on deployment tactics. It's subtle, it's easy to miss, but used properly it can swing entire games in your favour. The FAQ addresses a very specific question about first wave and reserve units entering the battlefield from your deployment zone edge, or DZE. The question is, if I have first wave or reserve units, can they come onto the table from any point along my DZE, including the shorter table edges 12 inches up the board? And the answer is yes. Units can enter the board from any point on your DZE, including the short edges, and move directly into no man's land. The rulebook diagrams even show examples of how this works for long edge deployment and quarters. On paper, this might sound like a tiny wording clarification, but in practice, this is one of the most impactful changes for bolt action in terms of deployment it's had in years. Why? Because you're effectively gaining 12 inches of free movement when entering the table. You're no longer forced to slog from the very back of the long table edges. This instantly increases your threat range. You can threaten objectives and enemy units a turn earlier. Movement reach. Faster armies become terrifyingly fast. Deployment angles. You can approach the game from angles your opponent doesn't normally guard. Flanking potential, especially for weapons that want side shots. Scenario scorer. This is huge for missions that reward board exits or early positioning. This single update changes how players now think about turn 1 and turn 2. Looking at some games, the biggest winner, Envelopment. Let's start with the mission that benefits the most. If you thought this mission favoured mechanised forces before, buckle up. Here's what this rule now allows. A transport can now start 12 inches ahead of where they normally would. It can run and potentially exit the board turn 2 or turn 3 dependent on movement. Imagine loading a transport with platoon commander, company commander, medic, flamethrower team, small teams in a large capacity, and you get that off the board. 3 points apiece. Suddenly you can score 3, 12, even 15 points early game. It puts your opponent on the back foot, and then early game they're already behind, so it means it's harder for them to claw back in terms of score. This turns Envelopment into a mission where the first 2 turns decides everything. Objective missions. In objective missions like key positions, this rule allows you to reach mid-board or mid-board objectives an entire turn earlier. So it's massive, especially for armies that thrive in close range like SMGs, assault rifles, engineers with flamethrowers, rangers, an extra 12 inches on top of your 12 inches. That's massive. So this allows you to secure central objectives, pressure enemy defensive lines, establish board presence early. So this means if you're a close range army, you can play a lot more aggressively because you're 1 turn ahead. Flanking and angles. So coming on from the short edge unlocks completely new firing angles. So suddenly things like your anti-tank weapons on your tanks burst on from the short edge, instantly threaten the sidearm of an enemy. Before this FAQ, many deployments were predictable. Now everything becomes a potential flank. So in terms of how this is going to be used, let's talk about the social side. There's 2 ways you can use this rule in a game. Option 1, the respectful way. At the start of the match you just say, by the way, are you familiar with the October 2025 FAQ about first wave deployments? That way you both play with the same knowledge. It's fair, it's fun, it's competitive. Option 2 is more or less the trap card. You are being that guy. You say nothing, you let your opponent deploy, and then bang. You enter from the short edge and steamroll the flank, and they don't expect it. Technically allowed, but if you're going to win properly. And that's the breakdown of this rules change or rules update. How do you feel about it? Personally, I would have said no. You can't come on from the sides. But they've said yes, so it's going to be done. Have you used it yet? If so, how are you using it? For games like Top Secret, it's going to make things a turn faster. So are they trying to just do this to reduce game time, how long a match takes. Some of the events are 2.5, 3 hour rounds. If you can get everything on and off the board in 2 turns in Envelopment, it's going to speed things up, isn't it? Let us know in the comments, hit a like, subscribe. Until next time, may the dice always be in your favour, and just don't be that guy.